Okay. So we're a group, we're a project about 3 years old. So if you're new to us, and if you, I lost track of who held up their hands, but stop me with questions anytime because everybody else knows what's going on, and we'd like to bring you up to speed and have you work with us. So we're a group that started about 3 years ago, and what we do is do three things. We want to build a chiplet marketplace. That's our sort of end goal. And our group does three types of activities. One is define an interface, a die-to-die interface. And the second thing we do is build stuff. JP here, who you're going to see, is the guy who's in charge of building most of our stuff. We build prototypes, we build packages, everything else. And the third thing we do is workflows. And David, who's going to talk soon, talks about how a chiplet-based workflow is going to be different, how you do business with chiplets, et cetera. It's been a really productive year for our group because we have like a fairly active set of, I'd say, about 50 volunteers. We collaborate with quite a few other groups. Bill here is going to talk about IEEE HIR in a bit. We are supposed to have a speaker from the energy department, George. It's not here yet, okay. And somebody from the UCIE, Peter, you here? No Peter, all right. Then we've got, in the afternoon, what we're going to do is tell you about, there are about 10 companies who are implementing silicon with our specs. Elad's company here, and another company called D-Matrix. So we'll have a panel about how their experience is growing. And then Anu will join them. Where did Anu vanish? Anu will join them on the panel. DJ, who's sitting right next to Anu, organized a conference on chiplets about 3 months ago, the first of what will hopefully be a many conferences. So we've got lots of, this has been a big year, lots of stuff released. We've got new specifications in flight. And JP here will talk about the test package. So one of the things we did late last year was sort of ask our group, what do you want to work on? And in a weird way, even though it's a volunteer effort, we actually worked on the things everybody said we wanted to work on, which is kind of nice. Oh God. So the first thing we want to do is like figure out how to build. Building with chiplets is very different from building with monolithic ASICs. And so, yeah, this is not a good thing. But anyway, so one of the things we did was build a chiplet cost model. Anu here and two of our friends who aren't here built a chiplet cost model that you can actually access on the web if you'd like. Elad and team released a bow specification, a bunch of wire specification. David and co are working on beginning a assembly rule set, so the way you build with chiplets is different. And finally, there's something called a chassis model proposed by Google, which we haven't made too much progress on. We've got a test package. So this is a big deal. We're going to be the first open demonstration of interoperability between two chiplets from two different companies in the data plane. So when when it's executed, it's going to be something. It's going to be a first of its kind. Then we also have a second, our first spec release called OpenHBI. And finally, it's not enough for chiplets to be connected. They actually have to exchange information. So we have a lightweight link layer. As David's not here, is he, Elad? Where? Oh, I've never met him. So, hey, David, thank you. So this was the workshop we held, fairly well attended and everything else. So as you can see, most of the work is, I'm simply sitting here sort of reciting what other people did. So it's a pretty active group with lots of work streams and a lot of activity going on. We hope you'll join us. Cliff didn't join us. Okay, so we actually had a fairly good interaction with the trade press when Bo was released. As a group, we met with about 10 plus analysts. Pretty good feedback on the bunch of wires spec. And what we want to do is really look at a bunch of wires as a mechanism. So there are two common ways to use chiplets, or that prospective ways in which people think chiplets will be used. One is to take things that are on a board and put them into one package. And the other is to take something that used to be a single chip and break it up into multiple dies. So it's either because you want to reuse IP in the form of hard silicon rather than as soft IP the way it's used today. So you could buy a CPU chiplet. We've got one of our companies doing a CPU chiplet. You could buy a I/O chiplet and network I/O chiplet. So for die disaggregation, we believe Bow offers many advantages, and Elad will go into some of the positive aspects of why we think Bow is a good fit there. So we did announce this, and we have about 10 products at different companies, and then we're also aware of at least 3 other companies, or actually I'd say 3 public companies and a few other companies that are building building prototypes but have chosen not to go public about it. So we've got a fairly good ecosystem of companies in flight. This is a list of companies that actually have announced their support or building silicon with Bow, and you'll hear from Blue Cheetah, and you'll hear from D-Matrix today in the afternoon, and you can get some more information about. And then David from Ventana is sitting in the back there, and I don't know if we have anybody else. No Kash. I don't believe we have anybody else here. This is a test package that JP will go into in more detail, so I'll skip that to get us back on time. We've got a very nice community as well. I want to say a big thank you to Tessol and JSET, right, JP? And you know, he can go in, and then to IIT Delhi as well for being, and to Meta. So everyone, Google, so everybody, a big thank you to everybody. So obviously we wouldn't, I'm sure I've left out some names, but we wouldn't be where we are as a group without some seriously good volunteer support from many, many, many people. And I'm sure I've left out a few names, but we've got a fairly healthy set of contributors from companies big and small, from AMD, Cadence, I'm looking at Google and ARM and Keysight and JSET and academic institutions like IIT Delhi and small companies as well. So one of the things we're really proud of is that every company is welcome here. Many of our work stream leads are actually, JP here is from Cisco, but Elad and David are from small companies that want to influence the way chiplets evolve, and we're very happy. So all of our work is open. So any of the specs, as you know, if you're here, you can go in and download it, no questions asked, do what you please. You don't have to contribute anything back to the community, but you're welcome to. A lot of our intermediate specs are now on Git, so you can go and get the main difference between what's on Git and what's on the OCP contribution side is sort of a liberated IP licensing that comes with the spec, whereas on Git is basically a document, right? So today I've kind of gone over what we're going to do today, which is a deep dive into Bow, the link layer with David back there, then, wait, we have a David overload, right? And then this David with a chiplet description language, and James, sorry, and James as well. And then this afternoon we have the collaboration thing with Bill and our other speakers, and the panel with Anu and Elad and Mark from Marvell, who isn't here. That's basically it. Hopefully with all the slide snafus, we're back on time. Elad, you want to come up? And JP, you want to come up? Any questions before we move on to the next? Something like, hey, how do I join this effort, and how do I contribute? Anything along those lines? So if you don't have any questions, I'm going to hand it over to the bunch of wires, discussion on the bunch of wires.